And now, for the moment you've all been waiting for.
We take on the darkness, stare down deceit. Murder in the headlines, justice in the beat. From cold case whispers to killers in disguise, we rip off the mask, expose all the lies. Facts like bullets we load and deliver. Truth cuts deep like a blade in a river. Corruption shakes when the mic goes live. We dig where others won't survive. Games rolling through the smoke. Truth hits hard, no time for a joke. Deceit, murder, we name every name. No restraint, no shame, just flame. Locked on the case, we investigate. Cold files heat up when we penetrate. The only source you'll ever need. 12 gauge investigate, we make them bleed. No games, no censors, just truth. Justice is loud, and we're the sound. This is 12 gauge gas to paper. Pull the trigger on the lies.
Yeah, man. Sorry about the confusion, y'all. I meant to upload that other one, and I guess it went live. I'm not feeling all that great, and I just took some medication, so I thought I'd get on here and talk to you guys for a little bit while the medication kicked in. So here I am. Thank you so much for redirecting yourself to the right path. I know sometimes you gotta work really hard to keep up with the 12 misdirections and everything else. But here we are. Thank you for being here. I want to show you guys some stuff that I thought was quite interesting before we begin the video. Let me know if y'all can see that. Let me make it a little bigger. Let me take off the chat log so y'all can see it. I'm going to try to read this for you. It says, Idaho Department of Corrections Resident Concern Form. Here in Texas, we call this I-60, but obviously there they call it a Resident Concern Form. Brian C. Koberger, 163214, date 7/30/2025. So these were a while back. It's Institution Housing Unit and Cell 2M23233. Deputy Warden Dietz C. involved in initial discussion. CPI Crowell. I don't know if this was 7:30, but I didn't think he was. I guess he had just gotten there. The concern was, as I continue the SPI phase, I wish to discuss if I may be transferred to another AC SEG setting. I can't read his writing hardly. As B block, not engaging in any of the recent flooding, striking, as well as being subject to minute-by-minute verbal threats, harassment on that or other bases. I don't know what that word is. 2 of the S block is an environment that I wish to transfer from. If possible, I request transfer to B block immediately. I wish to speak with you soon. Resident signature. Obviously, it's B. Koberger, right? So think about that a little bit. He's already wanting to get transferred off that block for harassment and little things like that. What a little bitch. I mean, I can't say it in any other word. What a little bitch. I mean, you do the time, you do the, or you do the crime, you do the time, right? Chad, are y'all with me on that? Am I correct in saying that at all? Um, that you do the time, you do the, or you do the crime, you do the time. Is that not correct? Let me know if I'm way off base there. Because any other time I've ever heard that um, anybody complains about being in prison, bro, you put yourself there. You put yourself there. Here's another grievance appeal form. This said Brian Koberger, Institution Housing Unit and Cell, 1 MSI J2 number 33, 7/31/2025. This is a grievance, another one. It said the problem is I have on several occasions not received all items of food on my tray. I addressed this during service. What? And here yet to receive any replacements. In fact, the kitchen is not even called. The policy book confirms items missing which are painted or pointed out at the time of the service will be replaced. I wish to, without exception, receive these replacements. I've tried to solve this problem informally by addressing the issue with staff at the time of the meal service. I wish for the item to be called for and items replaced when this access the nutritional standard is not being upheld unless I receive my full tray. Brian Koberger. I don't know where you think you are, bro, but I'm going to tell you one thing, Brian. You're going to piss a lot of people off, especially the ones that are serving the food. Because the ones that are serving the food are usually inmates. And if they're not giving you everything that your little heart desires, um, I'm sure that when they start to get a little bit of heat brought down on them, you're not making any friends, bro. You're really not. So I'm just telling you guys, am I wrong on that? He is going to learn the hard way. The more you complain, the more it becomes a problem for you. Even when you dine out, you don't get pissy with people who are handling your food. Exactly. We watched a movie about this, and I know that most of you have probably seen it. It's called The Waiting. Um, and what usually happens is they don't really take kindly to people complaining. Dear 163214, sorry about your lack, or sorry about your luck. Be thankful for what you get. The warden. The comment of the hour. The entitlement. Yes, I've seen that. Yeah, it's pretty bad. But I can tell you, Brian, that your complaints are going to be read, but they're probably just going to be filed off in a little stack somewhere, and people are going to go on. Idaho Department of Corrections Resident Concern Forum. Brian C. Koberger, 163214, 07/30/2025. Deputy Warren Dietz. See involved in initial discussion, Corporal Crowell. As I continue the SPI phase, I think this is the same one I read, but it says the reply at the bottom says this was received on 1/31/25. Mr. Koberger, On any tier at IMSI, there are sometimes disruptions to operations such as residence flooding. On J2, it is a relatively rare occurrence, and J2 is generally a fairly calm and quieter tier. I do not think the B block would be any better for you. Give it some time. Captain B. Crowell, 8514-8125. There's the response, y'all. So, yeah, he thinks he knows better. He thinks he knows better than everybody else just because he read the orientation manual. Brian, if I were you, I'd really be careful what I ask for because, after all, you asked for a change of venue. And obviously that didn't work out for you, did it? Those are interesting, I thought. Give me you are sharing a lot of great insight on this. I'm going to show this. Like I said, this is what I intended on showing. He gets hungry enough that green bologna isn't too bad. Makes sense. He thinks he knows more and better than anybody else. Brian really can't read the room. Clearly, someone who is apparently innocent wouldn't give a rip about the nutritional value of their meals. Right? He expects that the prisons are going to follow the rules all of the time. He read a stupid handbook and is quoting it back to staff. I did. I showed the response. I showed the middle one, and then I showed his. Let me take this down. I did show it. Hold on a second. I'll show them again just in case I didn't miss it. Okay. Here's the first one. This one doesn't have a response. So this is the initial complaint. Now show this one. And then this one has the response at the bottom. And that's all I have. Unless I didn't grab one by accident. Let me see if I missed one. It's really interesting that Brian would have that kind of mentality to think that. Oh, there it is. I did miss it. Hold on a second, y'all. Yeah, I did miss it. My bad. Let me show it. I gotta send it to myself first. Y'all be patient with me. But like I was saying, it's very interesting that he would believe that he thinks the rule book is to be followed step by step. And he's in for a rude awakening. Okay. Sorry about that. Let's refresh this and let's see if we got it. Yes, we do. All right. This one is about the PREA law. And anybody that's been, anybody that has any knowledge of anybody being locked up, PREA stands for Prison Rape Elimination Act. Um, and that goes along with the offender's understanding what's going on regarding this. Yeah, I'm looking at Discord. I don't see it. Can you send it to me again while I read this one? Okay, the PREA law says sexual harassment type of incident. Individuals involved. IDOC first last 163214 Brian Koberger, staff associate Jordan Metlant, Jacob Rogers, and Carter Signorio. Wow. On August 3rd, 2025, resident Koberger, IDOC number 163214, submitted a concern from stating he has been subject to threats and harassment, recently escalating to overt sexually violent threats or statements. Lieutenant Malaya received a concern form on August 4th, 2025, and conducted an interview with Koberger in J Block. Koberger stated a resident that goes by Peru told him, "I'll butt fuck you." Koberger also stated an unknown resident from one of J Block said, "The only ass we'll be eating is Koberger's." Koberger stated that Officer Signoria was present for the comment made by Peru. Due to Officer Signoria being on B nights, an interview could not be conducted to attempt to corroborate the allegation. On August 7, 2025, Officer Signoria submitted an information report outlining his involvement of the alleged incident. Officer Signoria recalls vulgar language being used and directed towards Koberger, but could not identify who said what. The allegation is substantiated, but due to no aggressor being able to be positively identified, and Koberger saying he feels safe to remain on Tier 2 and J Block, no further actions were taken. The delay in the 105 submission date and the report date is due to collecting all the information to ensure proper action could be taken as needed in the report. Oh, it's getting wild, y'all. It's getting wild in the Wild West, it seems. Um, one more time. He's just making friends as he goes along. Especially, he's definitely in trouble because not only is he getting um the officers angry at him by these allegations, the individual is also getting the inmates the spotlight on them. And as you can see, it's not gonna go very well. They're gonna I don't know. I see Mr. Koberger walking funny in the near future. I don't know why I think that, but it's just a hunch. Move over, Dale Carnegie. Lube up, Bri. We need a Peru in chat. Yes, we do. Yeah, I didn't think Officer Signoria was gonna corroborate those allegations. Get Mama to send you some Vaseline money, BK. Enter chat during that fuck threat. We should send Peru a commissary gift card. That would be interesting, yes. Guess he didn't send out enough prison surveys. He shouldn't have researched that more. Yeah. I think you need to stay under the radar. Or maybe quit bitching, Brian. How long has he been in there? A month, maybe? Not even a full month. Yeah. Yeah, what's Peru's cell number and real name? Those officers, yeah, are gonna look the other way. Yeah, just like the corporal did or the captain. Well, Brian, time to crawl in your bed and cry, buddy. Because the more you quote the rule books and the more PREA instances you recite, You really think the whole unit isn't gonna gang up on you to see which one's gonna be the one to get that proverbial booty? Prison is not like it is out here. He still thinks he's in the free world. He still thinks that if he complains, people are going to rush to his aid. He fails to understand the politics in the prison yard. If I was him, I'd just stay in myself forever. I'd possibly try to get people to send me commissary money. At least I would be knowing what I ate, you know? Yeah, he should have went in and kept quiet. Peru and Bri sitting in a tray. Let's go ahead and see what Vinny has to say. I give this up to Vinny Politan, Court TV. I'm merely showing this for educational value and commentary. Vinny Politan is the creator of this video and Court TV. I had no instance in creating this whatsoever and not taking it as my own. I own no rights on this broadcast.
I'm Vinny Politan. The subject of my investigation is the tragic murders of 4 University of Idaho students. Their killer has admitted his crimes and was sentenced to life. And now finally, the public evidence is being made public. Here's the story. A quiet university town was torn apart by a brutal crime that shocked the nation. 4 young students were found slain in their off-campus home, their lives cut short in a scene of unthinkable violence. For weeks, the community lived in fear as investigators pieced together fragments of surveillance video, DNA, and digital trails. Eventually, suspicion zeroed in on a grad student studying criminology, a man who appeared obsessed with the very subject of murder. Behind a facade of intelligence and normalcy lurked chilling darkness. Evidence placed him near the victim's home, and forensic science tied him to the crime. Prosecutors say he meticulously stalked his victims before carrying out the killings. His guilty plea and admission ended the terror, but opened a new chapter of questions about motive, psychology, and justice. Now, as the public evidence is finally released, some of those questions are being answered. A lot of the reports, and some of them are somewhat redacted, right? There are certain things that are blacked out that should be blacked out. Names of certain people that were spoken to. So some privacy is retained. But the records are public, and the public is entitled to see them. And we have gotten some of those reports now from this investigation, giving us a better understanding of this killer and what happened in this mass murder. Cody Thomas took a look at some of those reports and found some interesting, revelations about what was seen and heard the night of the murders.
Sometime in the early morning hours, surviving roommate Dylan Mortensen was awoken and opened her room door, redacted, and heard a male say, "It's okay, Kaylee, I'm here for you," and crying. She then shut her door. A short while later, she opened.
Okay, as we've discussed multiple times, we don't really think that "It's okay, Kaylee, I'm here to help you," was really something that was stated. We, as a community, I guess, most of the people in the chat believed that it was probably the original statement that was said. I don't know why they hung on to this one, but we're in unity that this probably wasn't what was stated.
Her door again and saw someone approximately 5 foot 10 inches tall, dressed in all black with a ski mask, standing in the kitchen. She made eye contact with the person and could see they were Caucasian through the cutouts for the eyes. She shut her door again and texted surviving roommate Bethany Funk, whose bedroom is on the first floor. Bethany told her to join her in her room, and Dylan ran down the stairs to Bethany's room, where they fell asleep.
Couple of things there, right? Made eye contact. That's interesting, right? I knew that she had seen the bushy eyebrows, but I didn't know that she had actually made eye contact with the killer. Thank goodness that she did not become another victim. But there was something else in that Cody found, where you have apparently a voice saying, Kaylee, you know, it'll be okay. How did he know her name? How did he know her name? That brings us to the first question in our investigation. How did he know Kaylee's name? Was Kaylee Gonzalez the target? Was she the target in all of this? Here to help answer that question, private investigator Jason Jensen is with us, along with retired police detective Dr. Mike McCutcheon. He's also a crime scene and forensics instructor at Forensic Education. Great to have you both here. Let me start with that question, Jason. After hearing about this, about what Dylan heard, Kaylee, I'm here for you. Do you think that it's possible that Kaylee was the target?
Oh, given this new revelation, it's entirely possible. And the reason why I say that is we have long understood that there was a likely stalker scenario, and it's very common for a stranger stalker to be familiar with their victim and they feel they know that person while the victim knows nothing of the stalker. So it's very common.
Okay, what do y'all think, chat? I mean, do y'all think that that narrative is valid, or do you believe that we're going to go with what Dylan said originally in the PCA? Because, I mean, of course, there's different types of variations on what's being said and what's being deciphered in these documents that we've been reading on this channel. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? Give me your thoughts in the chat. Do you believe that he really did? She could have really heard that? Or do you believe that maybe she misunderstood what was being said, or maybe it was just a dreamlike state, as she stated in the rest of the paragraph that was read in that document? Okay. I don't really believe that she heard that either. I mean, after reading that document, you know, it does give a lot of proverbial instances where she could have been still in a dreamlike state, or delirious, or still intoxicated, you know. Yeah. No, I don't believe you are going with that. You don't believe that that was said. Okay. Yeah, I'm in the same boat with you. I mean, I believe that if that's really what was stated, it would have been in the PCA at the very beginning. They wouldn't have really put what they put in the PCA. I think they would have put this, and that would have gave it a little more teeth to really anchor in on the indictment of the suspect. So I don't believe that was heard. But let's continue on and see what these guys have to say.
Let's take a look at this as well. More that we uncovered from these newly unsealed documents. And here we have some reporting from the Independent. They spoke with Heather Barnhart, Senior Director of Forensic Research at Cellbrite, and she went through the killer's phone. The killer's digital footprint included a passive log of Wi-Fi networks that his phone sought out. Madison Mogan and Xana Kernodle worked at a local restaurant, the Mad Greek, as servers before they were murdered. One Wi-Fi log caught Heather's attention when she was searching his digital footprint. The network name for the Mad Greek Though nothing concrete tied him to the location at the time of the murders, the Wi-Fi log suggested he had been there before, possibly more than once. There it was, Heather confirmed. His device had passively logged that.
And before I talk on that, I want to say also that, at the very beginning, we were told that Dylan was going to be no more than just corroborating the timeline. Collaborating. I said corroborating. Collaborating the timeline. I tell you, I got medicine head, so please excuse the fact. Um, I'm ditchier now than usual, but collaborating the timeline, nothing less, nothing more, and obviously seeing an eyewitness, seeing bushy eyebrows, that only added to the ability to point out what the man's height, weight, stature, and any indicating value that she could have added. But the timeline would mostly what Dylan's statements were more for, and everything else, as far as what she heard, what she saw, I mean, not what she saw, what she heard is open for circumstantial evidence, of course. Um, so I would believe that hers was merely just for the timeline. I don't know what y'all think on that. Please type that in the chat if you have any opinion on her test, her statements about the individual that they're talking about. Um, just type that in the chat. Do you believe that it was merely just for the timeline purpose, or do you believe that her statements were going to be used against him as a proverbial vision of a lineup type description of the person she saw? To me, it was too fuzzy, too hazy. I never took it as anything more than a timeline perspective, nothing less, nothing more.
Network. So on the one hand, Dr. Mike McCutcheon, we've got apparently him knowing Kaylee's name. On the other hand, he is going to the Mad Greek where Xana and Maddie worked. What are your thoughts?
This is one of those situations. We don't know exactly what he's thinking, and sometimes it's unfortunately circumstance, the wrong place at the wrong time. And it could be where he saw them working and then followed them. We saw from the surveillance video footage that was released that he circled their residence a few times, whether he was specifically looking for those two kids or not. But it could be where he saw them at a restaurant and he decided they were going to be his victims. He was going to stalk them. It's very possible. With the digital footprint connecting him to that Wi-Fi, I think that's pretty significant. And that, as far as I can see so far from what has been released, to me, that's the only connection to these, to the victims, him and the victims, is the Wi-Fi connection at two of the victims' work. So besides that's the only piece I see that I would indicate that he had some, I don't want to say a relationship, but some aware of where they were and who they were.
Okay. Now, take a look at this, guys, because this is something else uncovered from these unsealed documents. Kaylee was stalked. In the documents, investigators interview a friend of the female victims, a woman who used to live in the same King Road house. She was told by, again, a redacted name, of a time at Winco when someone followed Gonzalez, which is Kaylee, out of the building to her car. There was also another time when all the roommates of 1122 King Road went out for a bit, and when they came back, the back door was open after being previously locked. She heard Gonzalez, which is Kaylee.
Well, he goes on to say she heard Gonzalez was walking her dog once and had seen someone hiding behind a garbage dumpster. Gonzalez felt someone had been watching her. This was about a month prior. I don't discount those statements, but we've known about the Winco guy. That Winco guy was not of any relevance to the stalking, I don't believe. As far as the Mad Greek, I don't really know what to think or believe on that. I'm opening that up for you guys in chat to give me your impression of what you believe about the Mad Greek, him passively um being able to tap into the Wi-Fi. Do you believe he was there? Do you believe he sat across the street and signed in while he watched people? Do you believe he was actively in the resident or at the restaurant at any portion of time? What do y'all think? You know, I don't know what to think about that. I mean, the reason I feel that way is not because, I want to say this disclaimer. I'm not in any way trying to show one way or the other whether he was innocent or guilty of this. He's obviously in prison for it at the moment. I'm mostly just giving dialogue and explanation to things that I can viably found as factual. But as far as the the Mad Greek, I don't know what to think about that. Um, I don't know what to think about that at all. What do y'all think, chat? Do you think that he passively has signed into that Wi-Fi at one point and maybe passed by there because that is Main Street, right? So he passed by there and he connected as if you're passing by a McDonald's and you connected to their Wi-Fi before. That would show you logging in periodically until the Wi-Fi deteriorates enough for you to lose connection. Um, well, they said he just said that he passively connected to the Wi-Fi, and they found on his phone that he had connected to the Wi-Fi, either router or server or whatever. So, um, I don't know that he actually connected as in being there, but if you're driving by somewhere and you've been there before and you've connected prior, then it's going to reconnect you. Kind of like I've been to McDonald's, Starbucks, theirs are open. Theirs are open Wi-Fi. So anytime you pass a McDonald's, even if you're on the interstate, it connects to that freaking McDonald's. I mean, I could go down the street to HEB and they have an open Wi-Fi. And even though I'm not intentionally trying to connect to them, I'm using my data plan. I connect to them and I get this message that says you want to connect to this Wi-Fi. So, well, I'm not saying like passing by. I'm saying like you have to be within a certain radius to connect to that Wi-Fi. And most of the time, their Wi-Fi is strong enough that it can catch you if you've ever connected before. I'm not saying that you can be a mile away and connect. I'm saying that, you drive close enough to these places, then you're going to connect. I have not. I have not seen the list of the Wi-Fi networks. I have not. I was just asking you guys because I mean I'm open to the discussion because I really don't know. You know, I don't know if this could have happened or not. I mean, I heard the same interview that you're talking about, and they said he did not. So I don't know how they would have. Um, so yeah, I mean that's why I'm asking. I'm just asking for conversational value, so to discuss some dialogue. But maybe we'll learn more as I read further in the documents or whatever. But I don't know. Here we go.
Was walking her dog once and had seen someone hiding behind a garage, a garbage dumpster. Kaylee felt someone had been watching her. This was about a month prior. Another friend told investigators, before the murders, Kaylee had claimed to have seen a shadow or a shadowy figure watching her from the vegetated area behind the residence, which freaked her out. Kaylee had also told the roommates about a stalker at blank redacted in Moscow, Idaho. Jason Jensen, how about this information about Kaylee Gonzalez? She felt like someone had been following her, felt like there was a shadowy figure, was freaking out, Jason.
Yes, all this seems to be adding up to the scenario that she felt like she was being stalked. And, that's key there, because as a stalker feels more and more bold, they get closer and closer to their victim until some horrific act where there's a break-in or worse. So this is common buildup of a stalker behavior where it starts out from a distance and they move closer and closer. And the victim usually has that sense that someone's following them.
Dr. Mike McCutcheon, the whole group, all the roommates left and came back, and the back door was open after having been locked. A lot of folks are wondering.
Okay, I'm not one to stop the stream and start something else, but I do want to show y'all on this Wi-Fi thing, because I'm not trying to be right. I'm just trying to in my own mind put some peace to it. So I put how close does the public Wi-Fi have to be to connect to your phone? And the AI, and this could be wrong, because, there's a lot of obstacles that go into putting this stuff on Google. It's not 100%. It said the public Wi-Fi signal's effective range to connect to your phone depends on several factors, but typically a good signal strength is achieved within 100 to 300 feet, 30 to 90 meters indoors, and 200 to 400 feet, 60 to 120 meters outdoors. This range can be affected by factors like obstructions, interference, and the Wi-Fi standard used. So the walls, the furniture, and other physical barriers can weaken or block Wi-Fi signals. Other electronic devices operating on similar frequencies, microwave, Bluetooth devices. Wi-Fi standards has different Wi-Fi standards, and then it goes along with list the ones have varying range capabilities. And the type of power of the router's antenna can also influence the signal range. So I don't know if that has anything to do with what they were just saying as far as the Mad Greek. I've heard them say that he didn't connect, but then I also heard that they said he did connect. So I'm kind of confused about that, and confusion is not a good thing. There's enough confusion, there's enough confusion in this case. Maybe we can talk about that further and see exactly if we can kind of find an answer to that, because I think that's an interesting question.
If this killer had staked out the interior of this, seemingly it's an unusual interior, but had staked out the interior of this home.
I will say, without knowing for sure, I can make a couple of assumptions. But with Brian's history of his criminology, for him to not have stalked or not have done an assessment of his victims or done an assessment of his home, I think would be unusual. I think that for someone who was studying criminology at the level that he was studying in criminal justice, I think for him to blindly just stumble into this house and kill 4 people is unlikely. Now, again, I don't know for sure, but that seems unlikely. And if he had planned, whether he saw them at the restaurant or however he locked onto them, if he were this person that they thought was stalking him, I wouldn't find it unusual. That is this is going to sound strange, but that's normal behavior for a murderer who is stalking their victims, and because they want to make sure their goal is to not be caught. So, and they want to be successful, and so they are going to take steps to make sure that they're successful, and that is planning out, making sure that they have a way to escape, where they're going to park their car, what's the entry, are doors locked or unlocked, are they going to bring.
I mean, I agree with what this man is saying, and yeah, Stefan, I saw your comment, and yeah, I mean, it's just interesting conversation, you know. I'd like to talk a little more on that. Maybe all of us get together and talk about that. You know, as far as what this man is saying, it's not without the realm of reason that somebody can stake out a house and even go into the home to rearrange stuff, kind of like we heard he potentially did when it came to his Asian friend. We haven't read any of that yet, maybe because she never did a police report. But we've still heard it otherwise. He has a history of going into homes suspectedly, you know, nobody's ever done a police report on him to give him an arrest on it. But many times, if you're being watched, people that are looking to harm you, they do check out their surroundings beforehand most of the time, so they'll know exactly where things are, so that it doesn't cause a nuisance to them as they're trying to escape. And like he said, they don't want to get caught. They don't want to get caught. So, that's interesting to me that he's talking that way, and I agree with him.
Break a window? Are they going to break a door? They preparing for that, just as they would prepare for anything else that they wanted to be successful at, and that requires a game plan. So whether it was or wasn't him, for us to think that he just randomly strolled into this house, I don't think is the case. I think he definitely had some forethought for sure before going to that house that night.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also trust Kaylee's instincts that someone was following her and there was someone looking at her. All right, our guests are staying with us. Coming up next, what new evidence photos have been released?
Nobody understands exactly why, but he was stalking them. He was hunting them.
Matriarch of the Adelson family gets arrested.
Terrible. Donna Adelson is facing charges of murder.
Feel so bad for those kids. They're kids. They're in college. They're kids. Having to experience that crime scene. So what we found in the reports and what Cody uncovered is a description of the crime scene and sort of the layout of this house inside. Take a listen.
As you enter the residence from the front door, there is a bathroom in front of you, south. There is a bedroom to the right, west. It appeared to be unlived in. To the left, east, was a staircase to the second floor and a small hallway. As you walk east down the hallway, a small mechanical room was to the right, south. The hallway ended in a bedroom, redacted. We know this was surviving roommate Bethany Funk's room. As you go up the stairs to the second floor, you enter a small living room area. There was a folding table set up on the west side of the area, partially blocking the entry to the west hallway. There were multiple areas of red liquid on the table that appeared to be blood. As I walked west from the living room, there was a half wall to my right. I could see multiple drops and runs of red liquid along the entire half wall. Across the half wall, north, I saw more red stains on the wall above the first and second floor staircase. The stains and liquid were consistent with cast-off and appeared to be blood. Continuing west down the hallway, there was a bathroom to the left, south, with the hallway ending at a bedroom. On the north wall of the hallway, near the bedroom door, there appeared to be a red-colored transfer mark at approximately my shoulder height. From the living room, looking into the west bedroom, I could see a female, Xana Kernodle, lying near the center of the room. A male, Ethan Chapin, was laying in the bed. Exiting the bedroom and walking east, there wasn't anything visible of interest in the bathroom. Outside the bathroom door, there appeared to be small drops of red liquid near the baseboard. a small smear of a red-colored liquid on the south wall, and a hair stuck to the wall. South out of the
Okay, I don't remember reading that, but that sounds kind of interesting, don't you think? It says there was a smear. I guess it's not putting it up on a thing, but he said there was a smear and a hair on it. Have y'all heard of that already? Have y'all heard that? That there was a transfer smear of blood, obviously, with a hair on the south wall. That's what this man just said. Have y'all heard of that? Because I read the documents and I don't remember seeing that. Well, maybe I didn't get to that part of the documents. But that's interesting to say the least. The south wall would be help. Correct me if I'm wrong. I would believe the south wall would have been north, west. The wall like heading into the living room area. Okay, that's why I didn't know about it. Okay. Thank y'all for that. Yeah, that's why I didn't know about it, because I didn't read all those documents. Y'all are helpful. Thank you. But that's interesting to me. I mean, I'm learning some new stuff just listening to this. And if you've already read all the documents and stuff, I bet you're like, oh, I've already heard this. This is nothing new. But thank you for sitting in here and chatting. I mean, I appreciate it.
living room was a small step down and a bedroom immediately to the left, east, surviving roommate Dylan Morton's room. South was a staircase to the third floor and a small storage area under the stairs. To the right, west, was the kitchen. The kitchen counters were cluttered. There were also red-colored drips on the north side cabinets near the sink and a red-colored liquid drop on the floor. The red-colored marks appeared to possibly be blood. As I walked south up the stairs, they switched back to the north. On the center wall banister were red-colored liquid smears. They appeared to be blood smears. At the top of the stairs was a small hallway. Directly to the left, west, was a bedroom, Kaylee Gonzalez. On the right side, east of the hallway, it ended with a bathroom. To the south of the bathroom was a small bedroom, Madison Mogan's.
So, to be fair, there was blood smear in other places, not just in the bedrooms. There's been people saying that all along. There was blood nowhere else in the rest of the house. And typically, as he's reading this, and I'm sure that y'all read it too, because y'all just told me y'all read it, you come to the conclusion that there was blood in other areas of the home other than in the two bedrooms. So that kind of, that if it's transferred, that means he either rubbed up against it or he put his hand down on it, or even as he was walking, he was dripping, which is quite intriguing, I believe, because that's all we've heard the whole almost 3 years is there was only blood in the room. There was no more blood anywhere else in the house, or it was cleaned up. Well, obviously, this man's saying different, right? This man that's reading this or, narrating this is saying different.
On the bed were Kaylee and Maddie.
And along with that description of the interior, there are also some photos that have been released, and that brings us to the next question in our investigation. What new evidence photos have been released? Here to take a look at them with us, private investigator Jason Jensen and retired police detective Dr. Mike McCutcheon. So we're going to walk through some of these photos that we have now, and be interested in what your thoughts are about the significance, what you would look for, and what it tells us. Let's begin first with this image of the stairs. Jason Jensen, I'll begin with you.
Well, it's interesting that what we're looking at here is I can see that there looks like there's cast off along the staircase, some drips like they were describing that Cody was explaining, as well as some empty cans. So, evidence that there might have been a party or something that preceded the night before.
Dr. Mike McCutcheon, taking a look at this one. What are your thoughts about the significance here?
Oh, well, it's when you see blood in that fashion, that's blood in motion. That's not a drip mark. So it could be cast off from if somebody's walking and they're moving their hands. It could be coming off of a weapon, but that is blood in motion. Though. So when those stains are made,
So what they're talking about is right here. So let me ask you guys in the chat, do you believe that this was cast off from the person that lived in the second floor bedroom that was the last to perish? Do you believe that this could have been cast off from her as she was rounding the corner, or how do you think this got here? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Yeah, I like that statement right there. The stairwell is amazing considering they said they did a deep cleaning the weekend before. That is cast off. So do you think that Jana possibly could have been running along that banister and already have been stabbed or sliced and cast off hit that wall? Is that probable? Y'all leave your comments in the chat, please.
where the origin of the blood is somebody who's moving, not being static. And you can see, and this isn't uncommon in crime scenes where there's lots of blood, is, to be frank, they're very messy scenes. There's a lot of blood evidence, and a perpetrator is normally getting blood on their clothing. We see that with the different smears, and them moving their hands around, that having it on their clothing, it's going to create these stains, very small stains in some situations, but it's that blood that's moving in motion. This person is moving quickly, which is making the stains. They're not drip stains. They're more blood in motion.
All right, Dr. Mike McCutcheon, I want to take a look at this next one because I'm trying to figure this out.
Sure.
This blue liquid, is there any significance there? Does that tell you anything, this blue liquid on the wall?
Yes, my guess is that is what they would call an amido black. It's a dye stain looking for bloody fingerprints. They use that to enhance blood. It interacts with the blood, and they spray that on where suspected blood may be, either to find blood or what I use it for specifically is to develop fingerprints, to develop bloody fingerprints. It's very fine, and it is a dark, we call it amido black. So my guess is that that's what that stain is. I would be really surprised if that were something that occurred during the crime scene. Just from what it looks like, that is very typical of.
And if you're having a hard time figuring out where this is obviously the TV stand. This is the living room window, and it looks like they're just a bunch of, see, there's the beer case right there. There's a beer, and it looks like that black backpack. And I heard people describing that this could have been some of the substance that could have been going down this wall, like it could have been blood that turned blue. Come on. He just described what it was. So I'm going to go with that, and I'm going to go with some of the comments that are in the chat. So we'll go with that. Claude says the amido sprayed on the backpack is definitely sprayed on cast out, but the blue stains on the stairs look like the amido is reacting with other proteins. Okay. Thank y'all for that.
Spraying that type of chemical to develop bloody fingerprints or to locate blood evidence.
All right, let's take a look at the next photo here, Jason Jensen. And this is sort of a wide shot of a desk inside the home. You're at the scene, you're looking at these photos. What are these things that you would be looking for? And is there anything obvious to you from this photo?
Well, one of the things I would be looking for when we're talking a death scene where it's somebody's room, you're looking for things of value that may be missing, that would be common there, some purses, some wallets, cash, jewelry, things of that nature. You want to see if there was evidence that there was a theft, a burglary in progress that might have been interrupted. But absent that, given the fact there is a purse present there, it seems like the motive of the murders were other than like a burglary or a theft.
Dr. Mike McCutcheon, looking at this and photos around the house, these are young college kids. There's a bunch of them, a lot of people in and out of the house. How much does that complicate processing the scene?
It complicates it quite a bit because if you were in your house, your prints should be there, your things should be there, and we need to be focused on our victims. And I know what I like to eat and what I like to drink. I know what my family likes to eat and drink. And so if I saw something in this particular photo, one of the beverages where I would say, my roommate would never drink. I have never seen my roommate drink that. Well, as an investigator, I'd say, oh, that could be the suspects because it's not the victims. But when you have, as we just saw on the stairs and on here with lots of different bottles and things like that, it's hard to know what's there fresh, what's there old. Were those from yesterday? Were they from a week ago? It's very difficult. And this isn't typical. This isn't victim shaming or anything like that. This is a typical college house, and it makes it very difficult. One quick note is what I would look for is if there was any voids in a bloodstain pattern to see if the suspect had taken a trinket or taking something after the event, because that blood spatter would be on that particular object, and then they take it. So now there's a void. I can't see quite from the picture without zooming in, but to see if there's...
Yes, to answer your question or to answer your statement, Chris, they were pre-gaming all day Saturday. You're right. Horse TV, thank you for being here. I don't know whose room this is. I can only speculate. I can guess. I myself am not an expert at remembering every little photograph, every little place in the home. I know I've went through the home, but when I've gone through it on the live, there hasn't been any furniture in there. So I don't recognize this furniture. You know what I mean? So if you knew whose room this is, I mean, then you'll know exactly what all the bottles and everything are in the beer cans or soda cans on the table are. But it's a very clean area other than the bottles and cans. I like how they're explaining this. This is very easy to follow, and I appreciate their explaining this.
There's a void in the blood spatter to see if the suspect took something with them after he murdered these 4 kids.
And we have one more photo that was unsealed here. We take a look at this. Jason Jensen, we have about 10 seconds left. Thoughts here?
But typically when we're looking at this particular box, those kinds of beverages, just like the doctor was explaining, you can see what might be something that would be related to the victims in this room, and that would be one of the things you would clarify, given the fact that there's a storage box for White Claw. Any White Claws you would probably eliminate in the room as being the suspect's contribution.
Jason Jensen, Dr. Mike McCutcheon, great to have your expertise and having you both here. Thank you so much. Up next, did the killer's behavior at Washington State University raise any red flags?
Those of you that don't know about what he's about to talk about the student that complained on him, the 9 complaint that he had against them, do y'all believe that would have been a red flag? You'd think that they would have taken that further? Do you believe that they did, or do you believe that they just dismissed it as just being not that important? Do you believe that it did go up the ladder? Y'all let me know in the chat what you think. And if you have any questions that anybody in the chat can answer without getting into a heated debate, be sure to place your questions in the chat.
I'm Vinny Politan. We continue our investigation of the brutal murders of 4 University of Idaho students. It was a mass murder by a man who was obsessed with murder and serial killers, a grad student studying criminology. Here's the story. It was a crime that shattered the peace of a small college town. In the dead of night, 4 bright University of Idaho students were brutally murdered inside their off-campus home, a place once filled with laughter and promise. The crime scene was described as chilling, a house of horror that left even seasoned investigators shaken. For weeks, the community lived in fear, wondering if the killer would strike again. Clues emerged slowly: DNA on a knife sheath, cell phone pings, and the eerie image of a white car captured on surveillance near the home. Piece by piece, detectives built their case, revealing what they say was a carefully planned and merciless attack. The victims, young lives brimming with potential, were stolen in an instant, and the town of Moscow has never been the same. Now, after the conviction of the killer, we are learning more about what happened as the public records and public evidence is finally being released. And we're taking a look at some of that newly released and unsealed evidence in the case. Now, this killer was studying criminology. This killer worked at Washington State University in Pullman, Washington, just over the state border. It wasn't far from Moscow, almost like neighboring college towns out west. And he was working there. So he was a grad student, but he was teaching classes. So he was interacting, and other professors got to know him a little bit from his time there. And it seems he made quite an impression early on. Take a listen to this part that Cody found in the reports, talking about observations from one of the professors at Washington State University.
One day, a female grad student came running into her office, went and checked on her, and the student said that she had just left class because of an interaction with Koberger. Koberger had said something very sexist, and the student called him out for mansplaining. Koberger stood his ground and kept speaking in a way that made the student feel she needed to stand up and leave the room.
So isn't it yeah, isn't it? It's almost ironic that everything he gave out to these women, these prisoners are giving him the business, and I'm happy to hear that. I really am. I hope they continue on, and I hope they continue on to just make his life miserable every second of every day until he no longer exists. Because you know what? This that they're about to talk about, no matter how people downplay it, no matter how they don't believe that it was that big of a deal, or that people felt merely that he was a creepy guy, that it wasn't that big of a deal. That just is not conducive to a good environment when you're trying to learn or you're trying to be a coworker of this guy. You know, the fact that he stood out that much to people was more than just his demeanor, you know? Um, he was obviously a bully in some regards. He bullied his way around that university, in that department, in those classrooms, and people were keeping tabs on whether he would show up late to female instructors' classes versus the male instructors. So, I mean, you would have to be kind of really on the radar of a lot of people who were working in the criminology department, the criminal justice department, You don't think they pick up on these signs quicker than the average person? You don't think that they're wrong when they go with their instincts on what they've been learning? And here you are teaching them, and they're picking up vibes from you that is everything that they have learned in a textbook. They're watching their knowledge unfold before their very eyes. So, you know, to sit there and downplay their complaints or even the instructor's complaints is asinine to me.
She was asked by staff to check in on name redacted because Kohlberger was harassing her. Kohlberger would go into an office where several female grad students worked and physically block the door. Once in a while, she would hear one of the female grad students say, "I really need to get out of here." And she would intercede by going into the office and allowing the female student to leave. Kohlberger had strong feelings that regular burglars had nothing to do with sexually motivated burglars. She and her colleagues had a faculty meeting right before the Christmas break in which they discussed each one of their students. Kohlberger took up most of the time in this meeting because he was highly problematic. She told her colleagues, "He is smart enough that in 4 years we will have to give him a PhD. And mark my word, I work with predators. If we give him a PhD, that's the guy that in many years, when he is a professor, we will hear is harassing, stalking, and sexually abusing his students at wherever university." Because there was a performance issue in terms of his TA, teaching assistant duties, she and a couple of her other faculty members made the recommendation to cut his funding and get him out of the program. She felt like he was stalking people.
Wow. Okay, let's get to the next question in our investigation. It's about his time at Washington State University. Did his behavior at WSU raise any red flags? It did, it seemed, with that professor. Here to help answer that question, private investigator Lauren Vellucci and clinical and forensic psychologist Dr. John Paul Garrison, also a body language expert. You know him, Dr. G is here. Thank you both for being here. To me, that is just jaw-dropping, Lauren, the observations from this professor that, like, basically predicting the future for this guy.
Yeah, and it was terrible because she was noticing all this, and so were his classmates and his other teammates that he was working with in this teacher's assistant program. And they would do what they could, but they said that basically he was misogynistic, homophobic. He would literally insult everyone, and he had to dominate every single conversation. I just think that after all of these little nuggets that are coming out, it makes Olivia Goncalves's victim impact statement so much more powerful, because she was speaking to all of his grandiosity that we're seeing here that everyone picked up on. But the problem is that it wasn't serious enough to get the law involved. And so that's why I'm a big proponent on your gut. We have a gut feeling. Sometimes we can't pinpoint it, what's wrong, what's off about someone, but we should always listen to that gut feeling, because this professor and a lot of these students knew that something was very wrong.
Absolutely. More than a dozen complaints. Take a look at this. A professor at Washington State University, he was aggressive towards women, made them feel uncomfortable. The faculty discussed how they could intervene. Dr. G, your thoughts about these observations of the killer?
Well, it's tragic that they couldn't intervene, or they felt that they couldn't intervene. I know in psychology programs, we gatekeep pretty well. If somebody's strange or is doing something like this, they're not going to graduate. They'll be kicked out of the program. But you have to have leverage like that over somebody. Otherwise, they'll keep these behaviors up. Clearly, he was escalating, and ideally being able to take him out of a program or put some sort of limits there would have maybe helped prevent some of that escalation.
Some more from these complaints. Another student at Washington State University, name redacted, further described that the killer would stare at people in an intimidating way. Again, name redacted, told the killer that the way he was speaking was condescending, that he speaks that way to women, made her feel uncomfortable. Several of the students supported this person in her rebuke of the killer. The killer responded by saying, "I care how you feel, but you were wrong." The killer would also come into her office and stand in the doorway, would not take any cues that she didn't want to talk to him.
And doesn't that sound like what I read at the very beginning? You need to get me moved to another cell block because the rule book says this. It's like he had that lack of awareness that it took to put things into perspective to problem solve in his mind. It was black or white with him. It says this is what you should do. There's no area for gray. It seemed very cut and dry with him. Like he said, you're wrong. That's a bold statement to say to anyone, regardless of what he could have phrased it different, but the fact that he didn't have that social awareness, it set a lot of people the wrong way. It made them feel uncomfortable at the most. And many people say, just because someone makes you feel uncomfortable, does that make you a killer? Well, there was more to it than just being uncomfortable. There was other avenues of suspected behaviors that he just never got. They never reported it, which I believe that anybody in the chat who has a young one that's going off to college or is in college, if you see something, say something, no matter how insignificant it might seem, because you just never know if you have one of these lurking around another campus looking to repeat the same type of behavior that this individual did. Because one thing about killers, they're always looking to one up the next one.
Dr. G, what are your thoughts about that? I care how you feel, but you are wrong.
Amazingly manipulative, which is exactly what you would expect with somebody like him. Low in empathy, high in manipulation. He knows just enough about what to say. He has just enough empathy to manipulate people, but no more than that. And that's what we see with people that are psychopaths.
Another student at Washington State University. Before talking with, again, name redacted, she emailed the killer concerning her grade. She stated his comment was, quote, "Stinks for you. You didn't know what you were doing." She felt at times that the killer would intentionally leave the class at the same time and follow her out to her car. I trust that she was probably correct in that observation, Lauren.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that was something that was echoed by everyone, really. He would talk down to women. He would call them broken. I don't know if it's the same student that completely changed her routine and asked professors and other students to drive her so that she didn't have to walk alone or take the bus alone at night because of him and him following her out to the car and other behaviors like physically blocking her from leaving the class when it was over and her wanting to go. And multiple people have stated this. I mean, it's really, really creepy stuff.
Dr. G, is there any way to tell the difference between, and where that line is between someone who is just a jerk versus someone who is potentially dangerous that, could attack you, sexually assault you, or like in this case, end up being a mass murderer who wanted to be a serial killer?
Unfortunately, it's all too often that we don't get to measure these things and talk to these people until after the fact, until after they've started doing something. But the truth is that for people that are socially awkward, they typically want to get along with people. They just don't have the skills. For people that are psychopaths, they can look similar, but they want control. So you start to get a sense this person wants control. They're being manipulative. They're trying to be hurtful. They're engaging in stalking behaviors. They're not being awkward and walking out and wanting to talk to somebody. They're stalking. They're trying to make somebody feel intimidated. So how you feel around somebody, really trusting your gut to go, this person is not just awkward. They're wanting to harm me. They enjoy the idea that I'm suffering right now.
And Dr. G, how does the autism play into this? Because our understanding is that the killer was somewhere on the spectrum.
So I hear. I don't know how officially true that is, because psychopathy and autism superficially can look kind of similar because they can both have a minimal emotional expression. They can be kind of blank. There's a lot of...
You don't say, Doc. You don't say. Very interesting catch.
Overlap between the two. If he in fact did have autism on top of many of the other issues that he has, then it is going to increase his ability to manipulate well. He's going to be awkward. People are going to see his manipulations and just feel creeped out by him. So there could be a little bit of overlap, but I'm not even convinced that he's very on the autism spectrum.
All right, guests are staying with us. Still to come. Did the killer's behavior off campus raise any red flags?
As to count 2, murder in the first degree as it relates to the murder of Madison Mogan. How do you plead, guilty or not guilty? Guilty. As to count 3, as it relates to murder in the first degree for the murder of Kaylee Gonzalez, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
Matriarch of the Adelson family gets arrested.
Terrible. Donna Adelson is facing charges of murder, the death of her former son-in-law.
Senselessly slaughtered them. 4th, this unfathomable and senseless act of evil has caused immeasurable pain and loss.
Powerful and very true statement by Judge Hippler at the sentencing of the killer. So when the killer moved, he went from Pennsylvania out to Washington State, across the country, went out to, what was it, Ted Bundy country, right? And when he first got out there, I think this was right around the beginning when he got out there, stayed in a hotel. And just for a couple of days, yet made quite an impression on folks at that hotel. Cody Thomas going through the reports, found it. Take a listen.
Kohlberger checked in on June 30th, 2022 at approximately 4:52 p.m. Kohlberger later came down to the front desk and asked her to make a set of key cards for his room and leave them for someone named Name Redacted. The following morning, she went upstairs to see if Kohlberger was going to check out at the appointed noon checkout time. As she approached his room to contact him, he was standing in the doorway leaving. As they walked down to the front desk, they talked about sheaths and collecting knives. Once at the front desk, they talked about self-defense weapons and their knife collections. The key cards for Name Redacted were still at the front desk when he was checking out. Another female worker at the hotel told investigators, Name Redacted told her manager that she had double-charged Kohlberger, and he became really upset. And then he became nice and kept coming downstairs, flirting with her.
Interesting, right? So in these reports, we found out a lot about people coming forward and providing information about the killer. And that brings us to the next question in our investigation, which is, did his behavior...
I wonder who he left those keys for. I wonder if he had he had plans to hook up with anybody when he got to town. And obviously those keys were left behind, right? What do y'all think about those keys being left? Who do you think those keys were for? Anybody?
Behavior off campus raise any red flags? The things he was doing when he left Washington State University. Still with us, our guest, private investigator Lauren Vellucci, and clinical and forensic psychologist Dr. John Paul Garrison. Dr. G, I want to put this up here. This is from the University of Washington student. The killer had asked, Name Redacted, if she was single. She discussed her relationship with her partner. He asked about other friends of hers and if she was interested in getting together outside of school. She said she was not interested. She said she had told him she had been blanked, right? And he stated he did not date broken women. The redaction, I believe, probably refers to some form of being a victim. Dr. G, what are your thoughts about him seeing a woman who's been a victim as a broken woman and having some sort of rule that he has that he doesn't date who he considers a broken woman?
It shows that he's sadistic. It goes to the idea that he has not just low empathy, but no empathy. This is someone who truly does not understand human relationships in any real measurable way. So of course, if somebody has been hurt, he's going to see them he's going to use that against him. He's going to use that as a bludgeon to make them feel awful. So regardless of whether or not he actually sees them as broken, he may just say that to enjoy watching someone hurt, because that's the kind of person he is.
Yeah, Lauren Vellucci, it's amazing that this guy has such a high opinion of himself and is so picky about who is good enough to be with him.
Yeah, it's disgusting. In fact, he was so full of himself that he had the confidence to go up to two women in bathing suits at this pool party that he was invited to. And he got a pity invite because his father went up to a neighbor of his that he had just moved in and basically said, I want you to meet my son because he has a hard time making friends. So when he went to that pool party, he went up to these two women and got their phone numbers. I know, attractive, smart men who don't have that confidence. And then you have this creature thinking that he is so good and he has this overbonding, confidence that he'll go up and have no issue approaching two women. It's really, it just shows how much he thinks of himself, his grandiosity, and how narcissistic he is.
Here's something else from another student who's at a pool party that Lauren is mentioning here. They noticed the killer trying to socialize, but not doing a good job of it. They were uncomfortable and a little bit weirded out by him and said his behavior seemed erratic.
By the way, his pickup line was, "How you doing? I'm from Pennsylvania and I like to hike. I'm Brian."
Dr. G, imagine this guy coming into town and hanging out at the pool party and trying to get to know folks. Like, oof.
It's tough because I think we've all been around awkward people that make us feel uncomfortable, but the way he does it is so extreme. When you think of everything of human behavior being a sort of a bell-shaped curve, like the vast majority of us are in the middle and there's some outliers. He's way, way out there. And so I think it sounds like pretty much everybody identified him as someone who there was something strange about him beyond just being awkward.
Another woman at the pool party, the killer approached her and started talking with her about taking a personality test for introverted and extroverted personalities. She found the killer's conversation about personalities to be a weird topic to discuss at a party and became bored of the conversation. They exchanged phone numbers so he could text her a link to take a survey. She never saw him again after the party. He did text her sometime later asking if she had taken the survey. She never did respond, and shortly after changed her cell number and purchased a new phone. Dr. G, this woman's radar for danger, I think, was activated by this guy. She knew that this guy was trouble.
Absolutely. And he also is somebody who is incredibly arrogant. He likes to show off how smart he was, which is probably why he wanted her to take that personality assessment or whatever it was so that he could talk about his knowledge about it, maybe somehow make him feel like he got leverage over her because he would probably find some way to try to make her feel bad about whatever her results were. That's how predators like him operate. So people need to trust their gut. There's just sometimes we just know when somebody is off, and it's beyond just making us uncomfortable. And I'm glad that some people were able to do that. It's so tragic and unfortunate how far he got and how far he was able to escalate all of this.
Yeah. Lauren, we have about 20 seconds left, but could you imagine someone coming up to you at a party? Hey, you want to take a survey?
Oh my gosh. This guy was just, they found out that he had 18 contacts in his phone. Can you imagine being a 30-year-old man and only having 18 contacts? And those were family included. So this guy couldn't keep friendships or start them.
Great to have both of you with us tonight. Lauren Vellucci, Dr. J, Dr. John Paul Garrison. Thank you so much. Great to see you. All those red flags were identified in real time. The question is, how would anyone ever suspect that he would actually do what he did? Right? You see the red flags, but no one's going to think that he's going to actually murder 4 people. Now, I know all of us know someone who's awkward, maybe strange, but think about it. Would you ever suspect that that person that you think is strange in your life would be a serial killer? And even if you did, would you say anything to anyone? I'm Vinny Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as he investigates.
That's a great question. It's a great question. I hope you guys have enjoyed the presentation. Once again, thanks, Vinnie Politan, for your presentation and the guests that you had on there. You know, one thing about excuse me, one thing about this individual that we must remember that is more important than being weird or creepy. That most experts eyeball these traits, not looking through the human emotional barometer, but actually on the clinical level. So whenever somebody just uses those words such as creepy or uncomfortable to be around, you have to ask yourself, okay, well, on the clinical level, what else do they see? So there's plenty of things that have been written about countless people that have the same type of behaviors, that have similar traits. And once again, this individual pleaded guilty, 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 guilty. And one charge of burglary. Those crimes were premeditated. He was planning on doing this, you know? So many people can say many things about Koberger, but if you saw the grievance forms at the very beginning of the video, you really see what type of individual you're dealing with. Look at the writing, look at the wording, looking the entitlement type of language that he uses towards other people. And it's so easy for him to get other people in trouble, but yet he was a mastermind in not being caught, right? You honestly think that somebody who is so intellectually inclined would not get caught? But there was so much evidence. Either law enforcement saw it, the FBI saw it, or the clinicians saw it. And there's a reason why he's in prison right now. If you don't see it, then maybe because you identify more with this individual than you even give yourself credit for. Hopefully, you're not that type of person, but the more you fight for a killer, the more you tell the world exactly your values, your morals, and your beliefs. It's not about freedom. It's not about constitutional rights. Not about any of that. To stand up for a quadruple murderer, there should be a lot of red flags in your backyard as well. And that's all I have to say about that. You guys, thank you once again for being here. Maestro, cue that music.